Welcome back, folks, to another episode of College Baseball Live here, brought to you by Just Baseball Media. I have some wonderful guest hosts today. I'm very, very excited. As you guys all know, our guy Hunter is back. Hunter, how we doing today, man?
Doing great. NCAA tournament didn't live up to expectations yesterday, but you know what did, Mark? College baseball.
College baseball outshined. We're going to talk more about that, but there was 14,600 people at Duty Noble at Mississippi State opening SEC home play. Unbelievable there. We also got the wonderful Olivia Sayer from Dogs 247 today, covering all things Georgia. How we doing this morning, Olivia?
I'm doing great. Thank you both so much for having me. I'm currently in Georgia. The weather is amazing, so it's a great day.
Living it up. Like, that's what it's all about. I love that. Like, I'm up here in Central Oregon, as all you fans know. It was 75 here yesterday. Like, we're supposed to still be at the edge of snow season. Got no snow. I'm up here in the mountains. It's gorgeous. I can't wait, man. It is baseball weather. For all you fans that have been out there watching March Madness for your college basketball team, if you're eliminated, guess what? You got to dive back into a better sport now. We got college baseball going. It is rad, and it is unbelievable. The games they lived up to expectations. As you said, Hunter, there was pitching performances, there was offensive performances, there was all sorts of things that you could ever want in college baseball. We had it live yesterday. Let's start off with a couple of the SEC series that have gone into two games already. Oklahoma and LSU. Oklahoma lost game one. They won game two, so that they've split at the box so far. The big difference yesterday, Hunter, LJ McCurious gave up the solo shot in the second and then held down this LSU lineup. It was really talented and a really good pitching performance come back after the 1-7 loss on Thursday.
Yeah, just what a response by OU, right? I mean, you get kicked in the teeth. You have the rough start from Cam Johnson. You've got to use a lot of your bullpen on Thursday. And as LG McCurious has been all season, just, steady Eddie, giving you some depth, a lot of strikeouts, limiting hard contact. It's what you're looking for. And then the OU bullpen made a lot of big pitches late in this game as well. We saw Caden Leon get out of a jam in the seventh inning, and then they rolled a double play in the eighth and the ninth to, wipe out any momentum from LSU. So it's pretty impressive. And now you look at this rubber game today. Oklahoma's a win away from starting out with a series win in each of its first two. LSU is eyeing a 2-4 start in the league. This is a pretty important Saturday game.
It's never easy to win road games, which we'll talk more about. It's just so hard to win SEC road games. They've gone down there 1-1. If they can somehow win this series, LSU is reeling. They're trying to find themselves at that point because then they'd be 2-4 to start SEC play. Oklahoma seems like they've put it together. Olivia, when we look at this game, this is a huge rubber match game.
Absolutely. Like you guys just alluded to, you want to defend your home field. So if you're LSU, you're not having a good start to the season. I believe you're 16-8, 1-3 in conference play. You really need to get this one at home.
Yeah, and the RPI continues to rise for LSU, so that's not going to be your friend. We've talked about a little bit on the shows here on Thursday and Monday that the SEC RPI is not good. It's over the board is not good. Vanderbilt continues to rise in the RPI. Like a lot of these teams, you think, hey, I'm going to get some good wins. That Q4 loss was a Q4 loss for LSU at Vandy. Like that's how the RPI works right now. Is that those losses were Q4 road loss? Like that's tough. So they got to figure something out here. Big win for Oklahoma, though. Let's go to the Kentucky and Ole Miss game. Hunter Elliott, great for Ole Miss game one there. They win that one 5-0. Cats come back and win 3-1 last night with Jelkin. And just unbelievable performance there for the Cats. Olivia, this is another one where you're looking at going, Kentucky could be 5-1 if they win this game. And on the other side of it, Ole Miss could be like, oh, man, we're back to 500 in SEC play and we're losing a home series.
Absolutely. This is, if you're Kentucky, well, if you're either team, you obviously want to take this one, but Kentucky, you got to have it. Ole Miss, probably not one of the top teams in the conference. It can hold its own. I actually picked the Rebels to take this series, but yeah, if you're Kentucky, you want to win this one against a team that's not going to be as tough as some of the other ones you're facing throughout the season.
Yeah, it'd be a huge road win for the Cats. I mean, they're already 19-3, Hunter. This team just continues to find ways to win. They've been with Tyler Bell in the lineup, without him in the lineup, but somehow they just keep battling. It's Nick Mingione team. It feels eerily similar to that 2024 team that made it to Omaha.
This is what Nick Mingione teams do. You can't get in these kind of games with Kentucky if it's low scoring, if there's good pitching, if you're relying on the little things to get the job done. That is where UK thrives. That's where they've continued to thrive. Since they made their super regional run, lost to LSU, made it to Omaha, and now, we're seeing them build back up. And this team, by no means, like you alluded to, they haven't had Tyler Bell. He's still not playing in the field yet. But this pitching core, without Ben Cleaver being as good as we expected him to be, you're still getting, this awesome stuff from Jackson Jelka. And Nate Harris has been a really good guy to round out that weekend rotation. And then Niall Adcock gives you 2 scoreless innings in relief yesterday to close things down. So again, this is another big rubber game today. And a couple of guys looking at in this one, Hudson Brown has had a really good start to this series. This is a guy coming back to Mississippi, where he's from. I'm not sure what his exact line is through the 2 games, but he hit the liner that Hayden Federico dropped that allowed the 2 runs to score to kind of open the floodgates for UK yesterday. And then on the other side, Austin Foley, the Ole Miss catcher, it's been a rough start for him, but you'll remember a couple years ago he transferred from Kentucky to Ole Miss, and both times that he has played Kentucky this season, he's tore him up. So that's something to look forward to for this Saturday rubber game.
This is a very good Ole Miss lineup. It hasn't hit very well this weekend, but they have shown flashes of it, and it's going to be huge for Game 3 here. I think Ole Miss really feels like they need to win this game at home because there's not a lot of home series where you're like, hey, this is an easy one. We got to go get this one. Not that the Cats are easy, but when you already took Game 1 with shutting them out, you got to feel, hey, we got to go get Game 3. But again, the Kentucky pitching is probably the edge in this one, whereas Kentucky pitching is better than what Ole Miss is marching out on Sundays, and it being Saturday, the 3rd game of the series today. So one to keep an eye on for sure. Florida at Alabama. Tyler Fay, 132 pitches, no hitter against Florida. Hunter, Florida now has 2 hits in the last 17 or 19 innings of Friday night baseball.
Yeah.
They seem to be just missing firing on offense there. Alabama, of course, wins 1-6-0, but what is going on in Florida offense? Like it just is gone. It's disappeared.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a weird one too, because we didn't really see this in non-conference play. In the Miami series, they hit the ball really well, and in their non-conference, even in the High Point series, they were putting up runs. It was the pitching that was the issue. And again, Liam Peterson gives up 9 hits. It was mostly scattered singles and a couple of doubles, but that's still 6 earned, 2 walks, 4 strikeouts across 5 innings. And like you said, South Carolina has been miserable this season, and Josh Gunther and Alex Valentine almost no-hit those guys.
Almost got 2, yeah.
So it is definitely a disturbing trend for Florida. And I know we'll talk some more about Tyler Fay, but I wanted to throw this out there for you guys. First solo 9-inning no-hitter for Alabama since 1942. You don't have to be a history buff to know what was going on in 1942. That was World War II. FDR was president. We were still 5 years away from the inaugural College World Series that was in Kalamazoo. It's just so crazy. And for Tyler Fay, a guy who has been, he's been serviceable. He's by no means been a world beater compared to some of the other Friday night arms in the SEC. But I mean, just what a performance.
What a performance indeed. Like going out there on a Friday against a Florida team that has, been performing. Olivia, when you look at this, you go, that has to be one of the best pitching performances, not just in Alabama history, but the history of the SEC, at least the last decade, where you're going, this is a no-hitter on a Friday night against a Florida team that's been hot.
Absolutely. And like you guys were just saying, Alabama's not really in the best spot right now. I don't think they got off to the start that anyone sort of thought they were going to. I mean, they're 1-3 in conference play. Like we mentioned earlier, the series is at home. And so for him to go out and deliver that kind of pitching performance, now you have the entire bullpen to rely on for the rest of the series to hopefully, in Alabama's case, take this series at home.
Yeah, I was very adamant that they had to take 2 of 3. This is a great start for Alabama here because they had to go out and figure out a way to win this series, and it was going to be tough. That's the way to do it. Tennessee loses at home to Mizzou 8-4. Now, we know Mizzou is not the Mizzou of last year. This is a better team, Olivia. But the fact of the matter is that they got roughed up early in this one. Coons only goes 3 innings, 6 hits, 3 earned against him early in this one. And Mizzou just continues to roll. Like, the pitching has been solid for Missouri. They've been able to go out there and score runs. Like, they should have taken at least 1 game from Auburn in that series. They were right there in 2 of them. When you look at this, though, overall, now Tennessee is now 1-3 in conference play. They got to figure out a way to win the next 2.
Definitely. And honestly, just shout out to Missouri, because if you look at where they were at this time last year, they didn't even get their first SEC win until the end of the season. I believe it was against Texas A&M. So the fact that the second SEC series into the season, they've already notched that win, good for them. But as far as Tennessee, same thing we were kind of just talking about with Alabama, not the start to the year that they wanted. They have the talent. They have the coaching staff. I really like Josh Elander. I like that they kept it within the program to keep that consistency. But you just got to start building that consistency a little bit more. you haven't really had, I mean, the pitching was great against Georgia, but you haven't really had those back-to-back games that you just feel really good as a program, both hitting and pitching. But in terms of Missouri, I feel like they have kind of always had that solid pitching. Even last year, it was more the hitting that was the problem. So that didn't necessarily surprise me to see. But if you're Tennessee, you just got to figure it out fast.
They got to figure it out fast. Hunter, you're looking at going, somebody outside Henry Ford has to do something for this offense. Like, it has to be on somebody else to come up and step up, because they're reeling offensively. Like, the pitching's been good for Tennessee. We've talked about it. Their weekend rotation is solid. They have enough pieces in the bullpen. Now this one's going to set them back a little bit for the weekend, but they got to figure out a way to go get the next two.
Yeah, everyone's kind of talked about Levi Clark's struggles, which is I don't think anything any of us expected. But I saw a stat. I believe Jay Abernathy is now around like 2 for his last 30, something like that. That's been a bit of a surprise. And just the bottom of the order in general is just not producing. And even at the top, like you said, Henry Ford is doing his thing. And, Blaine Brown is still hitting the ball super, super hard. But I believe the average is now crept below 300. There's just not a lot of reliability and not a lot of consistency with this group. And then, Tegan Kuntz has been really good, with what we've seen. His stuff has been good, but this is now 4 straight starts where he's given up 3+ runs. If you're not going deep into games, it's obviously tough pitching at Lindsey Nelson, but, this is still Missouri that we're talking about. And if, we're going to throw that in there, there's a lot of pressure on Tennessee to win these next 2 games because if you don't, as we know, the fan base can overreact pretty quickly. But at what point does the overreaction become fair?
Just a reaction at this point, right? Like, because you're going
interesting
1-3. Lane and Mac's got to have a good day. Now, he's been really solid for them on Saturdays. He's been coming out and eating up a lot of innings. They got Blanca going on Sunday. I think that they can figure this thing out, but offensively, there's still some question marks. And the fact is, they just haven't been able to hit consistently. And you've seen it from the start of the season. This is not new things for Tennessee. But you figure at home they would get going, and eventually they'd be like, "Hey, we're rolling now. We have this thing going, and we have some offense." They just haven't been able to put it all together. So it's been a surprise, I would say, but not necessarily shocking, because we just have seen that this is the inconsistency we're used to, almostly consistently. NC State at Florida State. Welcome in, Tyler Jennings here joining us now. Perfect timing here as NC State wins this one 6-4. Bailey hits a massive 3-run home run blast there, and you're like, okay, Oppo field blast. They take the 4-2 lead. Florida State's feeling themselves. NC State just keeps battling back, keep creeping back. Tyler, just kind of what you expected. Like we talked about it, they've said this is going to be a low-scoring kind of affair. These teams are going to punch back and forth. 2 of the better teams in ACC play for sure.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, I know we all voted for Florida State in the pick'em. Mine was a
jinx.
No, mine was a theory. Okay, I'll put that out there. But yeah, no, like it was a pitcher's duel for a little bit between Mendez and Marone gave up that massive home run to Bailey, and then after that, I believe it was Rhett Johnson, the freshman at the top of that lineup that came through late to give NC State the advantage there. So, this is a very, I don't want to say it's underrated. This is a very highly touted matchup. And it certainly delivered yesterday. I think both teams pitched very well, and offensively both played well. It's just NC State came up out on top. So I'm interested to see how they handle Beard today, because Beard's coming off of 14 Ks and 6 2/3 last week. Might still be on the pitch count. I know talking to Link Jarrett, they're still kind of holding him back a little bit after the stomach bug that he had to start the year, but he looked fantastic a week ago. And I would definitely say this NC State offense is better than what Wake was. So we'll see how that kind of goes. But it should be a fantastic matchup down there in Tallahassee today.
Yeah, I'm with you, Tyler. I think that they probably keep him around 100 pitch max. I think that's probably where his line is today. I know that last week it was like 90, and they went right around there for him. So I think that they're going to be right around there. But, they could feel it out. They could see how it goes. It's going to be a big one here for these teams here. Both these, this is the top 10 Omaha match, whatever you want to call it. That's what these 2 teams are. They're heavyweights. Super big game here at Florida State here in game 2. Very excited for this one. Trey Beard, like we said, career high in strikeouts last week with the 14. Excited to see this one here in game 2. Georgia at Texas A&M. Olivia, of course, I'm going to go to you first on this one. 9-4 victory on the road. Allen gets that 3-home run blast to start it off. Georgia just allows only 6 hits all day to this A&M team. 5 of those 6 came from Grohovec, Sorrell, Hakopian. The rest of the lineup goes 1 for 19 with 6 strikeouts. Aoki and Bird, 6 and a third innings, 3 hits, 2 walks out of the bullpen. That's what Georgia needs. I mean, if you're going to get that kind of bullpen performance from these guys after not the best start from Volchko, unbelievable. And Georgia's going to win a lot of baseball games.
Absolutely. And I think that's one of the biggest strengths of this Georgia team right now is, yes, they have that starting rotation with that Joey Volchko, that Dylan Vignew, maybe that Kenny Ishikawa, depending upon the weekend. But you have a bunch of former starters like Caden Aoki, Matt Scott, a couple of others that can provide length in that bullpen. So if you have an instance like yesterday where Volchko struggles with command a little bit, he got pulled in the second inning, 2 outs in the second inning. It was the second shortest start of his career. The previous he actually did at Stanford, so it was the shortest start of his Georgia career. You have those guys that can come in and almost be that starting 1B pitcher to cover those innings. And also Wes Johnson mentioned it after the game yesterday. It helps that you had a 3-run lead by the time the second inning started. So the fact that Georgia's offense was able to continue doing what's been doing, I believe it was 15 hits, especially against 3 left-handers that it faced, because historically over the past couple of years, they've struggled with that left-handed pitching. That's a really positive sign, and it puts them in a really good position entering today's game with Dylan Vignew on the mound.
Yeah, you got to be feeling good if you are a Georgia fan right now, because the road win, again, we talk about it all the time. Road wins in the SEC are hard. Going over and beating the Texas A&M team that's a top 25 caliber team, Shane Sedell going out there and getting a win against him, that's not easy things to do. They did it on the road. Big start there for Georgia, as we like that one, coming off the very close victories last weekend against Tennessee. Wake Forest 6, Virginia 10. Hunter, I'm going to start with you on this one. Virginia puts up 5 in the first, and Blake Morningstar, just another rough start as we look across the board going, this guy has been superstar stuff, and then he's just fallen flat. Like, he's just had some really rough performances lately. Started the season off rough, had a couple good starts, and then has gone back kind of the wrong direction here. Wake Forest has to be reeling now after going 0-4 to start ACC.
Yeah, like you mentioned, Blake Morningstar, that's kind of the whole story here, right? It's a lot like Liam Peterson with Florida, where it's like, we know what these guys are capable of, but, every few weeks we leave scratching our heads of like, okay, what really is, what's the floor of a Blake Morningstar outing? And, you just never really know what you're going to get. And especially, when you're facing these top of the line ACC lineups and, you're facing a guy like AJ Gracia, it's just tough if you don't have your A stuff. And, it's another nice tone setter for Virginia. I think you've got to feel really comfortable moving into the rest of the weekend. 3 RBIs for Tiroli and Didowick each. I like where UVA's at, and again, as we said, Blake Morningstar, I'm just not sure. It's frustrating, and I'm sure especially frustrating for Wake and its fan base.
Absolutely, Tyler. You saw these guys live, but I think the big news here, KJ going out there and being able to get the start and getting a couple innings under his belt. That's got to feel good if you're Virginia. You're already hitting, and if you can get a frontline Friday night ace back, like, this is going to make a big deal for them.
Yeah, absolutely. And like KJ, he came out 96-97, which could just be he's going an inning. He's kind of airing it out a little bit. But if he happens to be like that in a couple of weeks where he's stretched out and he's taking on a bigger role, then that's a game changer for Virginia, because Zukowski and Stamel are more of these like soft tossing deceptive lefties that are gonna pitch to contact. They're not gonna overpower you. Stamel's, I would imagine, slightly better than Zukowski, but that's just me being a scout saying that. But they got a good arm on Sunday with John Paone too. They've got some firepower in that Virginia stable too. But I also want to talk about Morningstar too. Talking to a scout last night down here, because last week gave up 9 earned. I think it was 5 home runs against Florida State.
Yeah,
everything just looks out of whack. It legitimately does. Like the arm action, the arm slot, everything's just it's not synced up, and it hasn't been for a little bit. So I really do wonder if Wake Forest and Tom Walter kind of look at that in the mirror and say, like, can we fix something? And more importantly, where does this put us in terms of, like, can we put Joey Dressler in rotation moving forward? Do we move him back a day to kind of see if that helps something? Because they have the pitching depth to kind of work around Morningstar a little bit, which is good. Lavonis, obviously being the Saturday guy, is fantastic for them. He's been amazing to start the year. So we'll see what happens with Wake Forest. I think there's going to be a point in the next week or two where we kind of look back and go, okay, there's going to need to be a change, and we'll see what Tom Walter does moving forward.
Yeah, somebody the other day asked me, "Hey, what's going on with Blake Morningstar?" I said, "It seems like he's fighting himself on the mound. Like physically, it feels like he's fighting his natural movements." And I don't know if it's something he's working on mechanically, but it feels broken, and it comes out in gameplay right now. I mean, maybe they move Livonis to that Friday night. I just feel bad if you're Wake because he's been so good on Saturdays. You almost don't want to move him from that role because he's been giving you a chance to win every single Saturday. I don't know what Wake does, but they got to figure something out quickly. Texas at Auburn. Texas takes the lead. They hold on to the lead all the way to the bottom of the ninth. Auburn walks this one off, Hunter, with a weird center by Bristol Carter to center. Robbins, who had 2 home runs in the game and had been a superstar for Texas, 2 of their 3 hits, 2 home runs, makes the error in center field. Weird walk-off win. Auburn just continues to find ways to win.
Yeah, this is the thrill and the agony of playing in the SEC, right? Like Aiden Robbins is superhero. You know, he hits the go-ahead home run in the ninth, gives the Auburn crowd a little shush on the way back to the dugout, and then it's a life comes at you fast moment right there.
Yeah.
You know, I think it's safe to assume he was trying to come up early to make the throw to home to try and gun the runner.
Yeah, he was trying to make a play. Like that's what it was. Like, yeah, you can't fault a guy for wanting to make the play because if he throws a guy out at home, Texas is sitting right there in victory lane. Instead, makes the error. But overall,
and Aiden has been probably the best defensive center fielder in the SEC to this point. So it's especially surprising seeing that coming from him. And that ends up being the story, but also Jake Marciano and Ruger Riojas both just continue to look like 2 of the best guys in this league. When the season started and we saw Auburn roll out its first weekend rotation graphic and we saw Jake Marciano in the Friday night spot, I think most of us were like, okay, we'll see, right? We saw flashes at Virginia Tech, but we weren't really sure. I mean, this is unreal. He walked 2 last night, and that doubled his season walk total.
Yeah.
And I don't know what the total strikeouts are up to now, but he struck out 9 last night. So, just absolutely incredible.
Whatever Butch Thompson does when he gets guys in that he thinks can be aces, he turns them into aces, and it's unbelievable what they have done down there. Big win for Auburn, though. They start off now 4-0 in SEC play. And as I mentioned on the Thursday show, I said whoever wins this series might jump to the number 2 spot in our poll. That's how big this series is for both these teams. And I really like the way that Auburn just continues to fight. Like we thought more offense from Auburn and less pitching. It's been the complete opposite. They've been more pitching and just enough offense to get through these games. But very, very impressed by this Butch Thompson club. Vanderbilt at Mississippi State. Vanderbilt 2, Mississippi State 4. McPherson just unbelievable again, Olivia. 4 innings pitched, just 2 hits, 1 walk, 1 earned, 4 strikeouts. The bullpen goes 5, allowing just 2 hits to this Vanderbilt team. Davis, Gleason, and Webb. 14,600 fans in this baseball game. Brendan Seibert on the other side, though, he was great out of the bullpen for Vanderbilt, holding this Mississippi State lineup down. What a terrific game we have. March Madness, who needs it? We got college baseball.
Absolutely. And I think the number of fans in attendance just proves your point there. And that's just something I think I might have told you last night. I love that for the sport of baseball. You look at just the growth that has happened in this sport within the last couple of years, even just some of the big names that have come out and gone to MLB and debuted early. That's now making people tune into college baseball. It's incredible. And I said when Mississippi State hired Brian O'Connor, they have the facilities to get back on track. They have the buy-in from the fan base. They have the support from the school. And you're seeing that. And on the Vanderbilt side, not the hottest start to the season that we expected, albeit they have played a bunch of really good teams. You look at the tournaments that they played in to start the year, but you still want to get off to a hotter start if you're Vanderbilt than that. And so today's game is going to be really big for them.
Yeah, 13-9 is not going to cut it. And the fact of the matter is they keep dropping the RPI because they keep dropping midweek games. They haven't really played terrific on the full weekend. Yes, they did take 2 from LSU, but what does that mean at this point? We don't know. LSU's 2-3 in conference play. Like, you expect more from Vanderbilt, but it's not easy to go win on the road at Mississippi State, and Duty Noble's going to be crazy. The left field folks are going to be going crazy with the barbecues today, so I'm excited for more college baseball in the SEC. Tyler, talk to me about this Clemson-Notre Dame game. Clemson 0, Notre Dame 6, but a 9-inning complete game shutout for Jack Riddell. This guy has been the Friday night ace of all aces that probably came out of not really well known, but we've known him. But I don't think anybody expected he would dominate like he has this season.
No, I definitely wasn't, especially before the year, because, I mean, I left him off the initial top 50 college list because I just wasn't sure where he was going to fit into the rotation. But now it's very clear that he looks like a day one prospect. Like I know he had a rough week last week against Louisville where I think he gave up 6 runs and then like Notre Dame scored 10 in the fourth, and then it was a whole wacky game. But looking what he did last night, it was really impressive. Didn't walk a single person, 4 hits allowed, struck out 8 on 117 pitches. He was just clinical. That's the only way I can really describe it. He's been up to 97, 98 with like 7 feet of extension on the fastball. Secondaries, they work perfectly. And with this Clemson lineup, they've shown flashes where they look really good offensively, and then they're a little streaky. And Knack did not pitch terribly yesterday either. He struck out 8 across 5, only gave up 3 hits and 1 earned run. But the 4 spot in the 7th for Notre Dame, where if I remember correctly, it was Jamie Z hit a home run, but there was also a run scoring sequel before that off of Justin LeGuernick. So, this Notre Dame team has definitely proven that they can win Friday nights. I want to see how it kind of evolves into Saturday, Sunday, personally. But when you have an ace like Riddell on the mound, it's been really, really impressive. And I fully do believe that he's put himself in the day one territory. And Clemson, we'll see how it evolves today. But I have a feeling that they're going to at least claw back and get one out of this series. This is going to go down to the wire, I believe.
Yeah, I think that they get today, and then we're going to go seeing what happens on Sunday. But, this Clemson team now, the last 4 games have been struggling offensively. Yeah, they did scratch them across on that Sunday or the Saturday game against Georgia Tech, which was their 3rd game of the series. But that was from a lot of walks, and that wasn't necessarily earned runs. Like, they didn't look the part. They didn't hit the ball. They weren't driving gaps. Like, that was just a lot of stuff given to them by that Georgia Tech team. They're going to have to figure out a way to start getting some slugging. They got to figure out something, especially when a guy like Tristan Becerra transfers to Ole Miss and he's been tearing the cover off the baseball. It's got to feel pretty rough for Clemson fans when you're looking around going, man, we could have used some of those power numbers. But big win for Notre Dame as they move to 4-3 now in ACC play, and they just continue. Jack Riddell, man, if this guy's not ACC Player of the Week, I don't know who will be, because that was unbelievable performance. A couple scores I want to run through real fast. Nebraska at Michigan. Kurt Barr allows just 1 in the first and then goes 6 innings scoreless after that for Michigan. Huge as they squeak past a Nebraska team who had won 11 straight. Georgia Tech wins 11-9 at Pitt. Not pretty, but, Mason Patel comes in, gets that 2 innings and no hits for the save, was huge there for them. I will say this, no runs were scored after the 5th inning in that game, so it was 11-9 in the 5th. Nothing happening after that. Just a wild start there. Louisiana at Texas State. Louisiana had jumped into the top 25, but drops this one at Texas State 1-4. Big news there. Troy 6 at Southern Miss 5. A big loss there for Southern Miss. Southern Miss now 1-3. Hunter, I want to talk about this real fast. I'm going to let everybody have a little piece on this. Southern Miss was a top 10 team. They're now 1-3 in conference play.
Yeah, this is the throes of the Sun Belt, right? I mean, I think, we all expected a little more from Troy than what we had gotten the first few weeks of the season leading into Sun Belt action. And, to see that, it's like, all right, there we go. Like that's a little more like it. That's what we were expecting from a Skylar Meade team. And yeah, I mean, Southern Miss, you ride the high of taking that opening weekend series against Santa Barbara, aside from the loss to Jackson, Florida. You get these midweek wins over Alabama, Mississippi State, and Ole Miss, and it's like, all right, this is a classic Southern Miss team. The Pete is consistently rocking. Like this does look like a top 10 team. And then you open Sun Belt play and you're 1-3. It's a little bit of a wake up call, and you'd rather this happen now than much later in the season, obviously. I mean, for Troy, Josh Pine, 3 hits for him. Benjamin Stubbs goes 7 innings, 5 hits, 3 earned, 2 walks, 4 Ks. I'm not too worried about Southern Miss here. It's obviously interesting that Ostrander moves Colby Allen back into the bullpen where he had been throwing Friday nights originally. So it's definitely something to keep an eye on. Now, if Troy goes in here and sweeps in Hattiesburg, then that's obviously something to, I think, discuss a little further. But I think this is just a good old fashioned Sun Belt game.
Yeah, and the Sun Belt, we talked about it being the 5th power conference team or conference. It is. I mean, that their RPI is higher than SEC RPI currently, and that's pretty crazy to think about.
Yeah.
When you think about that, Olivia, looking at this, it's a tough loss for Southern Miss, but at some point we have to say, hey, they're playing good teams. Even if it's Sun Belt, Arkansas State's a fringe top 25 team. Troy was in a lot of people's top 25 to start the season. Now they haven't had the season that we thought that they would, but this is just kind of Sun Belt baseball, as Hunter mentioned.
Absolutely. And I was just looking through their schedule right now. They're non-conference. I mean, they played Alabama, they played Ole Miss, they played Mississippi State. Believe they beat all 3 of them. So yes, that Sun Belt conference schedule is pretty good for them, but even their non-conference is going to be really good in terms of propping up their resume, propping up their strength of schedule. And if they just continue rolling, I think you'll see good things.
Yeah, it is. It's a weird conference. And Tyler, I'm going to jump to you on this one because the fact is Louisiana loses, Southern Miss loses, Coastal wins. So that puts Coastal sitting at top of the Sun Belt, where we didn't think that they would be 3 weeks ago. Now they haven't played the same teams as these guys, but talk to me a little bit about just Sun Belt baseball and what this does it puts Southern Miss down 3 games now in that conference.
It does, and in a conference like this where it's so competitive, it's going to put they're digging themselves a hole that's going to be tough to get out of at this point. You had mentioned, Colby Allen being moved back to the bullpen. I personally think with the amount of depth that Southern Miss has, they can make that move this early in the season because he's been lit up a little bit. The fastball's not been great, so I think he kind of works well more in a relief role like he did a year ago. But Graydon Harris got tagged for 10 hits last night, moving up to the Friday spot. Coming off that series loss to Arkansas State, who's now, they're ranked for the first time in school history on some outlets. The Sun Belt, they're putting the name Fun Belt out there for a reason. Like this is a team, this is a conference that is just year in, year out fantastic. And with Coastal, they're figuring out what they need to do with their top 2 guys out on the rotation. So I think at the next couple of weeks, if Southern Miss doesn't dig themselves out of the hole with Coastal getting Caden Johnson and Cam Flukie back, it might genuinely be Coastal's league again this year. So we'll see what happens. But I think it's going to be fantastic with the quartet of teams that you have at the top of the standings here.
Yeah, and we've talked about it ad nauseum, but Coastal does not play Southern Miss or Troy, so they get to skip both these teams. And they're already 4-0 in conference play. Like they are finding ways to win. It hasn't been pretty, but a win's a win in the conference. And if you're going to keep doing that and you don't play those 2 teams, you might be setting yourself up, especially when you get those 2 guys back, Flukie and Johnson, at some point this season. They might be that scary team late that jumps in as a 2 or 3 seed somewhere that you don't want to see play. So I'm all about that life. Let's talk about UCF and TCU. Olivia, I'm going to start with you here on this one. UCF 18, TCU 7. It wasn't that bad until late. TCU scored a bunch late in that game. But Jordan Lodies and Andrew Williamson both get 4 hits. Jordan Lodies, freshman, probably heard the name Lodies quite a bit. Another one of those shortstops, and I keep saying that he might be the best shortstop of those cousins. Unbelievable for him. 4 hits as a freshman here at TCU. UCF is 4-0 in conference play.
Yeah, I was just going to say UCF just keeps winning. I mean, they jump out to, I believe it was an 8-0 lead against TCU. They're just continuing to roll right now. And yes, it was a high-scoring affair. Yes, they gave up a few runs, but it doesn't matter as long as you get the win, and that's just what they keep doing.
Yeah, and this team just keeps finding ways to win. I'm excited. I get to see them live in a few weeks here at Kansas. Very excited for that one. I know Tyler's jealous of me getting to go down there and have Dollar Dog Night with the Jayhawk fans there at Hoagland. But it's going to be exciting. And the fact is, UCF is undefeated so far in conference play. TCU is reeling. They got to find a way to win. Mason Brassfield wasn't necessarily bad, but he wasn't great. He was not hitting his spots, it felt. And that kind of just opened the door for UCF to kind of pour it on offensively, and a big, big start for them. Oregon State at UC Irvine. Now, this Irvine team is struggling, Hunter, but Oregon State still finds a way to win, and it's another Dax start. Like, it's just ho-hum. He goes out there, throws 5 innings of 4-hit ball, 11 strikeouts, 1 earned. He's now 4-0. Like, he could be 6-0 if Oregon State could have scored some runs behind him. But the fact is, Oregon State offense is finding themselves a little bit, still not a ton, but Adam Hite gets 4 hits in this one, and he's a superstar in the makings there for the outfield for Oregon State.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about this a bunch, and I think after the beginning of the season, I think a lot of people, everyone overreacts, and I think a lot of people were ready to write off Oregon State because of how bad the offense was to start. But again, when you've got a guy like Dax Whitney going out there, and, it was by no means his, magnum opus of a start, but he still struck out 11. I believe it was over 5 1/3. Like, the guy's just too good. So if you can just go out there and just scrape across 3 runs, like that is going to feel like 50 when you've got a guy like him out there pitching. And, all of a sudden, I think you really have to like the direction that Oregon State's heading in.
Yeah, and, the pitching has never been the question, and the fact is when you got Dax going on Friday, you feel really good about yourself. I will actually be down in Corvallis to watch them play Mercer next weekend and get to see Dax live this year for the first time in a game. at Goff, so I'm excited for that. Tyler, Jaeger and Queen both go 3 2/3 here in this one also to finish this one off hitless for the Beavers. The pitching's there. Jaeger is one of those guys who was so good and was up for, Big Ten Pitcher of the Year last year at Washington, transfers to Oregon State. If he finds himself like he has, like he's going to jump up draft boards and he's going to start being a dude out of the bullpen for the Beavs.
Yeah, for sure. And I've talked about this with a couple of scouts where Oregon State has just so much firepower on the mound that they're going to have guys like teams are going to be there every single time to see these guys pitch, whether it's Segura, Dax Whitney for a year from now. Even put in some guys like you mentioned, Queen. So getting that exposure to scouts is great for these guys. And there's another guy in that bullpen too, who I think it's Alberto Robles, who's kind of like, he's like Ryan Stanek. He's got the haircut and everything. It's fantastic. So yeah, like having that exposure and being able to perform it when some of your other teammates are on draft boards like that is fantastic, and he's definitely found a way to really put himself onto some of those boards and really help himself out.
Yeah, it feels like it's taking the pressure off Ethan Kleinschmidt, who hasn't had the start of the season maybe he thought he was going to have. And, a lot of us had him at like the 2 or 3 left-handed pitcher to start the season on draft boards. It's kind of dropped down a little bit, but he could find himself, especially with his bullpen, knowing he can go out and throw strikes. He's going to have a big start today here at UC Irvine. If he can go out there and really dominate like he did last weekend, he's starting to feel better. He's going to start climbing back up those draft boards. I think just the arm barn that they have created and what Dorman has there at Oregon State is insane. And it's going to keep them in baseball games, especially with no weekend series over anybody in the RPI top 50. They should start seeing some dominant numbers. You're going to see Dax dominate pretty much every single Friday. So it's good stuff here. Arizona State 5, Kansas State 4. Tyler, that's a big win for Arizona State and Cole Carlin, man. There's not enough positive things you can say about this kid. Kansas State has been tearing the cover off the ball, and he shut them down.
Yeah, no, I was really impressed. In this K-State lineup, you've talked about it. This is a team that's been really fantastic over the course of this young season. B. Kennedy has looked fantastic. AJ Vasco has finally kind of usurped the 110-mile-an-hour exit velocity barrier we've wanted him to kind of get over. So that's fantastic for them. But, Cole Carlin wasn't necessarily great last night. Walked 5 in 5 innings, gave up 3 earned, but also struck out 8. It was really just down to the bullpens there. And looking at it, when you have a guy like Brody Briggs for Arizona State in your 7 spot that went 3 for 3, Smaldino went 2 for 5, and then he had a trio of guys at the top of that lineup with Hairston, Mount Zordis, and Toigo who had 1 hit apiece. Yeah. They're getting production from every single part of their lineup, which is fantastic for them. And then you got to give a shout out to the guys in the bullpen who did shut it down. Taylor Penn, Sean Fitzpatrick, Finn Edwards, and Derek Schaefer. Schaefer had an inning in the 3rd perfect with 2 strikeouts. So, this Arizona State team, I believe they're going to be ranked here in the next week or so. I understand I don't have as much say on that as you, Mark, but, hey, this Arizona State team was impressive, even though they went 0 for 3 in Texas for me. And right now they're kind of just proving it again.
Yeah, we have them in our top 25 poll. I know I voted for them the last 2 weeks. I was very impressed with them. I think overall, they might have the best pitching in the Big 12 right now with all the injuries that TCU has. And so when you look around and say who can really dominate Big 12, West Virginia is up there, but I think Arizona State has a more complete team right now. Now, West Virginia did win the first 2 in that series against BYU. They go today. If they can sweep that one, they're going to be feeling pretty good about themselves. And Dawson Montesa doing better on Friday nights. Like he had a better start this week versus the last 2 previous. So I think that if you're looking overall, it's those 2 teams that are crawling at the top right now, but Arizona State has put themselves in a place by themselves, so especially with the pitching. In that offense, we know what it can do. Like it wasn't electric last night, but it can put up runs in a hurry and really scare teams. Let's talk about Louisville and UNC. Olivia, UNC continues to roll in Louisville, just going around questioning itself. The pitching's still not there. UNC wins this one 11-1. At some point, you got to go, Louisville's got to find pitching from somebody. Somebody's got to step up because 11 runs is never going to do it in ACC play, and especially when you're facing a guy like Jason DeCaro. You're not going to go out there and beat him if you give up 11 runs. That's just not going to happen.
Absolutely, and you mentioned it, playing in the ACC, which might be one of the strongest conferences this season when you look at some of the things that Georgia Tech's doing, a couple other teams. So if you're Louisville, you've got to figure out that pitching and you've got to figure out that consistency, or else, like you mentioned, when you go up against these other teams, it's just going to get worse.
Yeah, and UNC finding themselves offensively is going to be a big thing, I think, for them, because it is, their pitching we know is elite. We know that they have top-end pitching. We know they have bullpen pitching. If that offense finds itself, watch out. This is a very good UNC team that'll be right there with the Georgia Techs, NC States, Florida State teams when we talk about them here at the end of the season. Hunter, Edwards, USC. It's just another, let's just go out and shut out another team. 5-0 victory, 6 innings pitched, 1 hit, 3 walks, 12 strikeouts. He's clearly put himself, at the top of the left-handed board for draft picks? And I'll go to you after this, Tyler. But, man, Hunter, he's surprised everybody. He's been so good.
Yeah, I mean, there's not really, too much to say about it, right? You just have to look at the numbers and you're like, that doesn't, really feel possible, right? And again, USC has by no means played the most insane schedule, especially to start off Big Ten play. But we've seen plenty of other top end arms face this similar schedule and not come anywhere close to what Mason Edwards has done. At this point in the season, to not have a blip on the radar is pretty remarkable. And I forget what the ER. I think it's 0.25 now.
Yeah, he's only given up 1 earned run.
And 12 strikeouts over 6 innings last night, just the 1 hit, 3 walks. So if you want to look at something, I guess maybe you could look at the walks. But I don't know, man. USC is they've played themselves into the top of this Big Ten conversation. As the Big Ten West Coast dominance is obviously alive and well between them, UCLA, and Oregon. So I don't know. The first couple of weeks is okay. This is a fun story, but we are past the early season storyline story. Now this is just insane. And now Mason Edwards is must watch TV every week.
Yeah. And you look at the numbers and only Aiden King, maybe you could say, hey, he's had a better start to this season than Mason Edwards, but wow, what USC is getting pitching wise. And this is a Washington team that I said a lot on Thursday. They have won the first 2 series in Big Ten play. So this is not like they're coming in here as a losing team. This team is 4-2 in Big Ten conference play and has taken care of business, and they go down there and get shut out. Tyler, I also want to throw in one other name in one other game. Hawaii wins this one 2-1 at Santa Barbara, but Santa Barbara pulls Florida after going 7 scoreless and was just lights out. On the other side of that, Isaiah Magdaleno for Hawaii was lights out. So we had 3 really good West Coast pitching performances. But are Flora and Edwards the top 2 arms now coming out of college as we look at this draft board?
I personally, in terms of top 2, I'm not too sure just yet. I think Flora is definitively number 1. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it at this point. I think Edwards is 100% the number 1 southpaw in the class, and I think he's definitely put himself in first-round territory at this point. Some of the stuff he's been able to do this year, like you had mentioned, has been fantastic. Just going through what he had coming into last night, 59% whiff rate on the curveball, changeups at 62%, fastballs over 30%. He's got a 47% whiff rate on overall in his entire arsenal throughout the year. And we're six games into the season for him at this point.
Yeah.
It's truly ridiculous what he's been able to do. And in coming into the year as Jake McCoy, we thought we could be the top southpaw in the class. Unfortunately gets hurt, and I hope he's doing well right now in his recovery. But, Mason Edwards even if McCoy was healthy, I think Mason Edwards has definitely taken the reign on this number 1 southpaw spot, even if some of these guys were healthy.
A 0.25 ERA, 0.58 whip, batting average again of 0.060.
All you can do is laugh.
It's video game numbers. I couldn't do this in MLB The Show, and I'm a pretty good baseball player at that game, and I couldn't put up these ridiculous numbers. 64 strikeouts to 14 walks, and you look across them, you got Grant Govil going also. He's 35-3 on the strikeout to walk ratio with a batting average against a 119 and a whip of 0.48. You get these 2 guys on Friday and Saturday, USC is just feeling themselves. I mean, they got just a ridiculous staff going. Very exciting, for those 2 teams. And I think the draft boards on the West Coast, for me, I get to see a lot of these guys pitch, and it's been awesome. I was screaming about Jackson Flora last year. I said he's making that huge jump. I saw him in the fall. I was like, this kid's making ridiculous jump. I know that Tyler was listening, and then he was like, yep, that's the jump we want to see. The fastball whiff rate is up for Flora. That's what he needed to make that next step. And him throwing versus Fluky not being able to throw has kind of moved Flora into that number 1 arm slot for the right-handers. UCLA 12, Maryland 2. Olivia, I'm going to let you start with this last one as we talk about it. Only 2 extra base hits for UCLA, but they just find ways to win. It just feels easy for them. It feels like they show up and they know they're going to win baseball games.
Absolutely. They've just been rolling this season. And kind of like I was talking about earlier with Southern Miss, I'm scrolling through their schedule. They sweep TCU. They beat Tennessee. They beat Texas A&M. They beat Mississippi State, beat Ohio State. There's just really nothing that's getting in their way right now. And I think their record reflects that. So they've had a really hot start to the season, and I expect it to continue.
Yeah. Oregon cruised also at home against Northwestern now, so they improve their Big Ten record to 6-1 as they crushed. They won in 7 innings with that 20 runs. They were up 20-1 at one point and started bringing in some younger kids to throw because at this point Oregon seems to be just beating up whoever they play in front of them, and it's just crazy what they're seeing on the Big West here. Or the West Coast teams have really stepped back up. I'm excited for it. I think it's been outrageous. College baseball has just been great. Hunter, tell me a team that you think has looked really, really good this weekend. I know that you could pick some different ones, but give me a team that you thought was like, hey, this team has surprised the heck out of me and looked really good.
Well, when you get a 132 pitch no hitter, it's kind of like, it's hard to like judge Alabama based off of that but like after the Kentucky series, like they looked a little lifeless, and a couple of their high profile midweek games, like they got punked by Southern Miss when they went to Hattiesburg. And I was like, I don't really know. Like, I was really high on this group coming in, and we obviously know what Justin LeBron is and what he's going to do when he gets to the professional level. But I was like, okay, like you have LeBron, like who's going to be your Wade? Who's going to be your Bosch, right? We weren't really sure who was going to step up for the secondary pieces for Bama. And we really still don't know. Bryce Fowler has been okay. Justin Osterhaus is starting to pick it up after a really slow start. Guys like him and Jason Torres and Peyton Steele, like, those are the guys that are going to have to make Alabama go if they're going to consistently win games in this league. And obviously it helps when you get a legendary pitching performance. But, when you put up 9 hits on Liam Peterson, like that is something to brag about, even if it was mostly singles. So, I think that's a really good sign for Bama. If they can find a way to win one of these last 2 games, get a home series under your belt, sort of flush the UK sweep. I think that's, obviously a great way to get back on track moving forward.
Yeah, we talked about just needing some consistency. If they can find that, we know the talent's there for Alabama. We know that this team is very, very good. We know that they have the ability to go out there and surprise the heck out of teams. And I don't think any of us thought the no-hitter was coming, but I think we all thought that there was a bounce back at some point, whether it was just one game or a couple games this weekend. Starting off with the victory, that's going to feel good. If they can get one more, they feel really good about their chances going out through the rest of SEC play. I mean, it doesn't get a lot harder than having to play at Kentucky to start and then at home against Florida. That's a tough 2-game set to start. Olivia, who looked good for you this weekend? Who do you think was like, hey, this team surprised the heck out of me or was really, really talented?
There's a lot. I mean, looking at what Auburn did, looking at what USC did, UCLA just continued to roll. I'm going to go with Georgia because it's the one that I know the most about. And when I look at this team, it brought in 26 new players. This was its very first game on the road. And you're playing at Texas A&M, which is probably one of the top 3 or maybe top 5 places, maybe even top 2 in the SEC, maybe in the sport to play in. When you look at maybe Tennessee's in there, LSU's definitely in there, Mississippi State's definitely in there. So you're taking this group of guys who have never played on the road outside of a midweek matchup at Kennesaw State that's like an hour and a half down the road from Athens. And you go out there and you jump on Texas A&M against a left-handed pitcher, which is something you have struggled with this season. It impressed me. And although I did pick Georgia to win this series because of the depth of its lineup and all those guys they have in the bullpen, I did think they were going to struggle a little bit in game 1, just getting adjusted to that hostile road crowd. But they really came out and they surprised me.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for me was the bullpen. When you looked at it, you go, okay, man, that bullpen comes out and just shuts down this A&M team. And, outside the top 3 guys, they get 1 hit, 1 for 19. That's a big bullpen job to go out there and shut down the rest of that lineup and say, yeah, your top 3 guys are all MLB caliber hitters. They're going to get hits. We're going to stop everybody else. We're going to figure out a way to stop the rest of the lineup, and that's exactly what Georgia did. If they can do that one more time this weekend and go out there and get 2 wins at Texas A&M, they're going to feel really good about their 4-2 start against a quality Tennessee and a top 25 Texas A&M team. Like, that's 2 top 25 wins. You'd be really happy about that if you're a Georgia fan. Tyler, who looked good. You can say it. It's okay. You can say it.
No, I'm not going to do that. I will say on Georgia's part, because I was going to mention them, I really like what Justin Bird did out of the bullpen last night.
So good.
I was looking at it a couple weeks ago. He's got one of the best fastballs in the country for what it's worth. So just want to put that out there. Has a 42% whiff rate. That doesn't include last night on the fastball, which is elite marks. But for a team that impressed me, I'm going to go Arkansas. And I understand, like, you look at the final score last night. Yes, it was 22-6. Yes, I sat there the whole game. Yes, I was tired and wanted to go home. But the one thing that we've talked about in both public settings and in chat has been Arkansas's offense kind of struggling a little bit and getting a little streaky. I wouldn't say this is definitely what the doctor ordered. I think the doctor is definitely overprescribed the prescription a little bit, but they had like 4 home runs off the Gunter last night, and then added like 3 or 4 more after that. It was a total complete domination, essentially. And Gackle at one point was sitting on the bench for 45 minutes because Arkansas couldn't stop scoring. It was truly ridiculous. And it definitely impressed me a little bit, but just how they were able to, keep the conga line going, getting the ball out of the yard. It was a total team performance. And I understand it's South Carolina, but I'll talk about them here in a minute.
Listen, I think that the way that I have to go with this one, especially with my wife being an alum of Mizzou, is picking Missouri. Like, that's a big win for them. I love what they're able to do. I love Carrick Jackson has been able to put this thing together with some senior leadership. This is not the Missouri Tigers of last year, folks. This is a team that could go out there and surprise the heck out of some teams and maybe go get 10 to 15 wins in the SEC. I know that sounds blasphemous. I promise you this is a better team than you're looking at on paper. They should have taken at least 1 from Auburn last weekend. They could have taken 2 games from Auburn last weekend. This is a team is for real. Carrick Jackson has them believing. They're 16-6 overall. Big props to Missouri and what they've been able to do this season, and a big win on the road at Lindsey Nelson. Never easy to do. Big one there. Tyler, I'll let you start then with this one here, the team that maybe didn't look so good, because I think you probably go in the same game.
Oh, yeah. I'm getting on my soapbox here a little bit. I genuinely do feel bad for South Carolina fans, and I love coming down to Founders. I think it's one of the better environments on the East Coast. Every single time I've shown up to this place, it's been super rowdy, super fun to kind of be down there. Last night just felt super dead, and yeah. I can't sit here and say I blame the fans one bit. Like, it's been, they've really not had, somebody's calling me. It's been tough. You go out last week, you throw nearly a no-hitter against Florida and obviously get walked off and then kind of just get embarrassed the rest of the week. And yesterday was just a flat-out embarrassment. It's probably the best way I could describe it for that ball club. The fans were having some fun with it. I will say the chants that were coming down, I bet you could hear on TV, they were pretty funny. I'm not going to lie. But I think at the end of the day, you look at South Carolina, this is a team that 15 years ago was back-to-back national champions. Even before that, I had an old coach. If anybody knows Craig Cozart, the old UCF and the High Point coach, I was talking to him, and he remembers having to go up to the old field up here when he was at UCF when they were a national seed, and how the South Carolina fans would come out and root for the team that was going against them. South Carolina has a rich history of baseball, and right now it's just, if you had told me before the year this team has that history, I generally wouldn't have believed you. It's really depressing for me personally. Like I said, I love coming down here, but I feel for the fans. I hope there's some sort of plan here in the next couple of weeks, maybe even through the rest of the season, because I didn't see one last night personally, and I mean that with all due respect to whoever is there at UC or USC rather, but definitely want to see some change here in the next month or so, probably, if we're looking at logistically.
Yeah, there might be some shakeups happening there, and this is a team historically so good at college baseball, And when South Carolina is good at baseball, it kind of makes baseball better. I've said this about a few teams. Arizona State's one of those teams too. When they're better at college baseball, the whole thing rises. I want to see them get back to where they were, and I was really hoping that this was a team that was going to make some strides. Some early season arm injuries kind of shut that down right away. But, man, they got to figure something out. You still got a lot of SEC games to play, and this cannot be the 2025 Missouri Tigers. It can't be swap over to the South Carolina team. Olivia, team that maybe didn't look so great yesterday that you want to talk about?
I'm just going to piggyback off of that one because I think it would be offensive to compare that performance to anything else we saw this past week, or I guess on Friday. It's bad. And it's, on one hand, it's like, I don't understand how Paul Mainieri can go from having so much success at LSU to what we're seeing these past 2 years at South Carolina. But on the other hand, I think it just shows how much the game has changed since he was last coaching. You have the transfer portal, and albeit South Carolina did add some solid transfers during the offseason, you have that, you have NIL, you have all these other factors that just weren't in place the last time he was coaching. And so far, I haven't seen anything that indicates it's going to get better. I think it was not good last year, to put it nicely. And then this year, it's just continuing. I mean, nothing's going right for them. The fans are over it. The players seem to be over it at times as well. And I just don't know where South Carolina goes from here.
Yeah, it's a tough state. It's a tough state right now in Columbia. Hunter, team that maybe didn't look so good?
I'm going to go to LSU here, and not that they looked particularly bad yesterday compared to, like how they looked in the Sac State series or, in the Vandy series last week. But Cooper Moore leaves this start at the beginning of the fifth inning with what Jay Johnson said was tricep soreness. Obviously, I'm sure there will be updates from the local media down there as we move into next week. But if you're losing him for any amount of time with how shaky things have been, you obviously got a unbelievable start from Kason Evans on Thursday, but he has not been consistent thus far. And the bullpen, while you can continue to roll out guys who are going to, pump 100, there has not been any consistency there whatsoever outside of Gavin Guidry. It's just a really big question mark moving forward for me. And, as we've touched on a bunch throughout this year, just the general body language coming out of the LSU dugout is not very good. It is not indicative of a team that has won 2 College World Series in the last 3 seasons. Obviously, no one here is doubting Jay Johnson's ability to, get his team whipped into shape. And SEC play will do that, obviously. But there were so many moments yesterday where, a classic LSU team finds a way to break through. OU's bullpen is starting to reel a little bit. Derek Curriell comes up with the bases loaded, weak fly out to center. Rolled into a couple double plays to end the game. It was just one of those. It's just like something is not right. It feels like there is a lack of player leadership amongst this group. You really need guys like Steven Milam to get it going with the bat. He's been great defensively. Zach York was 0 for 4 with 4 strikeouts yesterday. He's cooled down a lot from his fun start to the year. So obviously, again, no one's doubting LSU. Everyone knows what this lineup is capable of. The roster is elite. The talent is there. But as we move further into SEC play, if things still look this way in a few weeks, I think you have to be concerned because at this rate, I don't think we're going to be getting an Alex Box regional.
No, I don't think so either. And I predicted it in the preseason. I said, listen, it's really hard to lose 2 arms like they did and just return to form and say, we're going to fill these gaps and be really, really good. Right now, this pitching staff is standing on quicksand. It could go bad at a moment's notice for this team. While I do think that the talent is there and they really have the caliber of being a top 25 team, they're not showing it right now. And a lot of, like you said, it's leadership from these guys, and they're plug and play guys that have shown up on campus have not necessarily stepped up in those roles. Yeah. I believe in Jay Johnson, tremendous coach. I think he's going to turn this thing around. But right now, I'm with you. That team's struggling. Team I'm going to talk about is kind of that direction, TCU, right? This is a team that has to find its way. Yes, there's been injuries. Yes, they've had some issues going on. Lots of injuries happen to do these things. But the good teams in college baseball, to find ways to win, the great teams can get through these injuries, and TCU is not doing that right now. Big win for UCF, like I said already. I'm happy for them. I think that they're a tremendous team. But the fact is that now TCU is 1-3 to start in conference play, and that's not where they want to be from a team that I picked preseason to be an Omaha 8 team. They're not playing like it, and Kirk Saarloos has got to maybe shake some stuff up and figure it out. Game you're most looking forward to today, Hunter? Let me have it here as we go into our last couple minutes.
I'll go into the rubber match with Kentucky and Ole Miss to stay in the SEC. Feels like a big one. If if Kentucky is able to get off to a 5-1 start in conference play, you got to feel really good about that moving forward. And again, this is obviously more for the future, but the Ben Cleaver angle has been really interesting to me. Like, I still don't really know like what is going on there. If he is 100% or not, it's just been weird. He's not going deep into games. The command has been inconsistent. But again, up until Thursday, they had won every single one of his starts. But to see UK bounce back the way they did yesterday, moving into this rubber game on the road in Oxford, should be a great environment. Tristan Bissetta has been so awesome for Ole Miss. It's been a quiet start for Judd Utermark this weekend. Want to see, how he performs today. So, just a good old-fashioned SEC rubber match.
There's lots of things that could happen in that game, and it's a big one. I love that. That's a great pick, Hunter. Olivia, game you're most looking forward to today?
I'm going to go game 2 between Texas and Auburn. I think game 1 last night more than delivered between the pitching staffs. You got another solid pitching matchup between Harrison and Sanders, a couple of lefties today. Can Auburn continue that momentum into today, or can Texas bounce back? I think when this matchup, or when you first look at the schedule entering this week, this is one that stood out. It's high ranking in a fun environment. And through one game, it's lived up to that hype. So I'm excited to see how the rest of the series goes.
I'm with you. I'm circling, highlighting Carson Tinney, whatever you want to call it. I think that he has a big game. I think he steps back up, and I think Texas takes this one and pushes to a rubber match. Tremendous. I love that pick there. And the pitching's been so good between these two teams, so I expect it to continue. Tyler, game you're looking forward to today?
So obviously I'm going to go with the one I'm going to be in attendance for, Hunter Dietz going against South Carolina. Hopefully it's definitely better than what it was last night. I know Dietz had a tougher outing last week against Mississippi State, but I'm excited to see him. I haven't seen him since high school, and obviously it's a lot has changed since then. So excited to see what he can do, and I know scouts are going to be flocking in for that. But outside of that, I'm looking forward to the second game of the NC State Florida State series. Jacob Duden going against Trey Beard. Again, we talked about it before. Last night's game was fantastic. Kansas State pull off the series win today. We'll see. And arguably, first off, their toughest opponent of the year, and also in probably one of the tougher environments in the country. So I'm excited to see what happens down there.
Yeah, like I said, that's an Omaha matchup. Both these teams are very, very talented. Very much keeping an eye on that one there. I'm with you guys. There's so many good games across the board here. But I am going to keep an eye on Florida at Alabama. Like, for me, can Florida's offense come back? Can it be anybody other than Brennan Lawson? We know he's a superstar talent. He's basically been their only offense. Him and Kyle Jones. I'll give Kyle Jones a tip of the hat because I think he's been tremendous at the top of the lineup for that Florida team. Somebody else has to be good. They have to have somebody else step up. Florida's got to find a way. Alabama, if they can go out and win this game too, they're going to be feeling themselves. They're going to be going the right way. Rob's got this team turning around. If they can win this game here, they're going to feel really good about themselves. But Florida has to figure out something offensively because it is not going to get easier in SEC play if you can't score. I get it. You have a 1-2 punch in Liam Peterson and Aiden King. At some point, Aiden King's going to give up a run. Possibly, I guess. He hasn't yet. But at some point, he's going to give up a run. And what are they going to do if they start giving up runs on Friday and Saturday? They got to score. So I think that's a big thing for me. All right, folks, that's it for us here. We're going to talk about our final thoughts here. Tyler, final thoughts on college baseball as we head into the weekend.
More fun, more chaos, please. I love it.
Love it. More fun, more chaos. Less March Madness, folks. If you guys have had your basketball teams lose, jump on over. Join us. Start watching some college baseball. It's great out here. Hunter,
please,
final thoughts?
Please, especially if your brackets are busted already.
Yeah. You took the words out of my mouth. I mean, look. These matchups across the board are really, really good. We're getting into the meat of things here. These games are only going to become more consequential. We have avenues to watch as many games as we want. Like, there's just, pop on a game when you've got a dead period between a couple of these March Madness games.
Absolutely. So much good college baseball. Olivia from 247 Dogs. If you guys have not gone out and checked out any of her stuff on Georgia, you're missing out. She's tremendous. Anything you want to share? Final thoughts for us here?
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you all so much for having me. It's been great to talk college baseball with you guys. And yeah, just to go off of what y'all were saying, I've loved seeing the growth of this sport. We talked about it earlier with the attendance at Dudy Noble Field. These games are fun. These games are fun to watch. They're fun for the players to be in. And I think we're just going to see it continue to grow.
Absolutely. Like I said last year, there was more people that watched the College World Series final than watched the NBA finals. And that's going to continue to grow, folks. College baseball is a game that's on the rise. One, you can take a family out to go watch these games. They're affordable. It's able to go watch these kids play. These guys are getting to the majors super fast now. So if you're going to see some of these top tier guys, they're getting to the majors. They're going to get to your favorite teams. Go watch some college baseball. Yes, enjoy your March Madness if your team's still in or your bracket's not get busted. But college baseball is waiting for you, and we got another 7 weeks of regular season. So thanks for joining us here on the College Baseball Show. We'll see you guys live for the Top 25 show on Monday. Thanks again for joining.